Don't forget to keep yourself on mute unless you are talking. And I will go ahead and pass it off to Ms. Amy Owen to read the statement of necessity.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be with y'all today. I know I mentioned last week I should be at my dissertation proposal defense. It got pushed back a week because a faculty member had a conflict, so that's okay, and I'm happy to be with you and get to see the conclusion of this work. I will kick off today with our statement of necessity for our teleconference meeting. Pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 844-108B3, the Tennessee Standards Recommendation Committee, by and through the State Board of Education, submits this letter of determination of necessity for its meeting of the Math SRC held via WebEx at 9 a.m. on September 25th, 2020. Pursuant to TCA Sections 49(1)(311) through 313, the SRC shall propose any needed revisions to the Tennessee academic standards at a minimum of every 6 years to the State Board. In order to meet its statutory requirement, this meeting was called to consider revisions to the Tennessee academic standards for math. In addition, the State Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission established an adoption cycle for mathematics textbooks, and the standards review process must be completed prior to textbook adoption for math. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic and because members of the SRC reside across the state, it was determined that a physical quorum of the members could not be assembled in Nashville for purposes of this meeting. As such, the SRC is meeting via WebEx on September 25th, 2020 to consider and vote on revisions to the standards for mathematics. Notice of the meeting was posted on the State Board's website, along with the agenda and instructions for accessing the WebEx. The video will be posted on the State Board's website after the meeting and will serve as the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And with that, I will go ahead and take roll and establish quorum. Benita Albert.
Present.
Teresa Boston.
Present.
Ken Berger.
Present.
Leslie Clifton. Edmund Ford.
Let me, there we go. I'm here.
Rita Sowell.
Present.
Aaron Vogelsang.
Present.
Joseph Wingfield.
Present.
Shannon Duncan.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have 8 members present.
Thank you. Is there any other items of business before we move forward?
No other official items of business, but I will let you know that we do have Dr. Stephanie Kolich with us once again to answer any lingering questions that we have, including the one that you emailed us, Shannon.
I'd also like to jump in. We do have our executive director, Dr. Sarah Morrison, on with us to start this morning. Sarah, do you have any words you'd like to share with the SRC?
Good morning. I don't have any words other than extreme thanks and excitement for the progress that you've already made. I was not able to join much of last week's meeting, but I'm excited to listen in today as you come to some decisions, and just appreciate Shannon's leadership and all of your participation in this really important work. It came up again, as it often does, with legislators on Tuesday when I was in testifying before the House Education Committee, and I could tell them with confidence that we have some just extremely talented, committed folks helping us in the final stage of this review. So just know how much we appreciate the work that you all are doing, on these meetings and behind the scenes to make these standards as strong as they can be. We're here to help in the final stages however we can. So I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Madam Chair. I believe you may be muted.
Okay, just kidding. No, I wanted to start out this morning by saying a couple things because I anticipate and am hopeful that we will be able to wrap up this work here in the near future. And I've been very appreciative and very impressed with the level of professionalism on everyone's part and contributions and collaboration. And it has been a very pleasant, very productive process so far. And having been through this a couple of times before, I can tell you I've been pleasantly not surprised, but I think Dr. Morrison can agree, we'd had a lot of deliberation, especially when it came to some initial review, and I have just been blown away at all of the work that has already been done and the intentionality in this process and what it has allowed us to do as a final review committee and the seamlessness of it. So kudos to a lot of people that put in a lot of time and effort and work on the front end of this, because I can truly say it is a high level, high quality of work, and it has made our charge as this committee, it has facilitated that in a way that I can't express enough appreciation. So I wanted to say I'd thought about that throughout the week, and I just wanted to give Catherine and Amy and the whole state board staff, and certainly those teacher teams and Dr. Kolich, some serious kudos this morning. And as for our work this morning with the review committee, I just as kind of a rough draft agenda, we may have some lingering questions. I know I had emailed in some things, some feedback I'd gotten, especially on that Algebra 2 front. And so we'll have some time to kind of work through any last questions, comments, edits, whatever pops up. And then we will work through some phases of voting, or let me back up a step, motions, where we discuss motions, and my recommendation, depending on how some of our conversation and work goes first, is going to be that we break that into grade bands, and we look at K5, 6, 8, and then the high school courses, and work through some discussion and motions and see how that pans out in terms of looking at grade bands. That just seems to be reasonable chunks and an efficient way to go through breaking that up and having those discussions. So without any other comments on my part, I will open the floor to other questions, concerns, items for discussion from the committee.
Shannon, this is Benita
Yes,
Albert.
Hi.
Good morning, and thank you for all of your work. I do have 3 questions. I spent some time last night because I wanted this in my head overnight and ran across 3 things I would like clarification on. One is in the course description, the introductory remarks about integrated math 2. At the bottom of the narrative in red is just the simple word transformations. And I wasn't sure why it was there, an incomplete sentence, or if it was a reminder to incorporate that somehow. Is there someone who can answer that?
Miss Benita, this is Stephanie Kolich. I'll take a stab at this. I don't think that word's supposed to be there. It was under at one point, and we just forgot to take it out when we rewrote those.
Okay, I suspected. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your work. Yes. Second question. Excuse me. I found a comment, and I was looking for it again this morning because I didn't reference it clearly enough. It said, remove graphing linear inequalities from Algebra 1 since it's in the 8th grade curriculum. And I went back. It was really, really helpful to have that cross-reference set of standards. But this was an 8 to 9 question, and I was trying to get straight on that. In the 8th grade, there is a standard HEEC9. It's a new one that talks about graphing in a linear inequality. And yet in the Algebra 1 standards, there still is a graphing linear inequalities. Is there a difference and a reason why it's still in Algebra 1? That one is A1A, RE, I think it's REI or 1, 7.
Okay, Miss Benita, give me just a minute and let me find those.
And I apologize for not sending this soon.
Oh, that's no problem. Can you tell me the 8th grade one again?
I have 8EE C9.
Okay, let me find that.
It was added, it says.
Okay, the 8th grade looks like it's focusing on a system of linear inequalities, primarily by graphing.
Mhm.
And the other one was A1A.
RE, I'm not sure if that's I or 1, E7.
All right, so there are a couple of differences in this. So if you look at the A1AREID7 over the rationale, the first half of the original standard is in 8th grade, where you're analyzing a graph, looking at given a graph, and they want you to find the system. And in Algebra 1, the focus is more on graphing it from scratch. So there is a little bit of overlap there. In both cases, you're graphing on the coordinate plane. In 8th grade, you have the option of beginning with someone else has graphed it for you, and your job is just to determine the solution set. And in Algebra 1, the focus is on you have to graph it yourself. So there's a little bit of overlap there, but I think that it's probably okay, because this is one of those things that students need time to absorb.
Okay.
And I think the 8th grade focus will be more on, I give you the graph and you tell me which piece works. And then the algebra will be more on, you have to graph it and then tell me which piece works. Does that make sense?
And that would be clear to teachers, right? The distinction would come in the scope and sequence, whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then one more question. And this is just, I believe, clerical. I started with the Algebra 2 standard, which was logarithmic exponential. It's A2 F LEA A2. And is that too fast?
No, I've got it.
Okay. And I compared it to Integrated Math 3 standard M3 FLEA 2. And I just think it's a typo in the integrated math 3. I think that once again, we need a caret. I remember reading across it and thinking, I don't understand this. I don't know how that works. M3 FLEA 2 under part B. And it should read, understand that a logarithm is the solution to AB quantity to the CT. There should be a caret
Yes.
or something there.
Right. The CT should be an exponent on part B in the integrated math. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for me. And thank you so much.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just for clarification purposes as we go forward, and I'm going to take your lead on this, writing some notes down. I think when we get to the motions, you said you want to do the K-5 first, then the 6, 8, then the high school separately. Is that correct?
That was a suggestion. We can do however the board decides.
Okay. And the only reason why I was asking because out of the guidance of Catherine last week, I did have a couple of motions, but it was brought to my attention that we should do all of those in one sitting. So do we have the Strand Progression again, that slide that has the color-coded state standards and the learning progressions?
Yes, let me work on sharing my screen and I can get that. Thank you.
All right. And this is just a recommendation. I'm thinking we can do exactly what your recommendation is, and we could do it by those particular strands. I think that we got the notes on those changes that were significant enough to where they may need more attention. I know geometry was one of the big ones, and there it is. Yes, thank you. So just a suggestion, this is where I want to know if this is what your recommendation is, where, for example, we got counting and cardinality. I don't think we really made any changes, and I think that the modifications that were given to us in the Excel spreadsheets were competent and efficient enough to where we could start from there. But is that what you're trying to do, Madam Chair? Because if that's the case, I can modify the motions that I was going to bring last week accordingly so that they can match up what your recommendation is.
And if we want to break it into pieces like that, we can. My impression after we left off last week was that we had more or less made the edits and the updates spanning K-5 across all of the strands. And if someone were comfortable and if someone wanted to go ahead and make a motion, all of K-5 standards together, then that could be a motion. If we would rather, or if someone would rather propose to take it by strands, that's fine too. It's simply the will of the committee.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
I will just add one note in. It is obviously you guys can decide how to vote on this however you want. It will just, if you decide to break it down into smaller sections, it will be very important to make sure that like no strands at any grade level are missed. So we'll just want to be sure that we are tracking that carefully if we break it down to that smaller level.
And my recommendation, barring any, major issues in any one strand, if everyone is, and if the motion is made and it doesn't get voted and it goes back to a motion to break it into smaller strands, that's fine too. But if people are comfortable, then the more efficient route would be to lump things together in those grade bands. But we can return to that conversation here in just a few minutes. Are there other questions or items for discussion? I know I had some. We can get to those. I wanted to make sure everyone had an opportunity to ask questions or clarifications.
So this is Ken. I sort of agree, Shannon, that the K through 5 was pretty clean. I mean, the changes, there were very few changes, and I was just going to add or suggest to Edmund, if you're okay with that, perhaps you would be willing to just modify your motion and have it to be more inclusive. As Shannon suggested, start with that, and if someone is opposed to that, then we'll fall back to the strand by strand or the grade bands and do it that way. So anyway, just my comment.
One other note, in the interest of Dr. Kolich's time, wonderful discussions on how we should proceed voting, but I do want to make sure that we are respectful of her time and get through any questions that the committee has for her, so that then she can go on to her regular work. Thanks.
Well, Dr. Kolich, if you're comfortable, I had emailed some feedback from one of the high school teachers that teaches a span. She teaches that Algebra 2 AB, the A in the fall and the B in the spring. That's kind of slower paced Algebra 2 course, as well as teaching our Calculus 2, AP Calculus BC course. So she kind of sees the span of some of those different things. And that was just some feedback that she'd given about things moved potentially to the full statistics course, and or left with Algebra 2. So if you've got that and you can respond to that, I'd appreciate it.
All right, and I'm going to paraphrase what she said. She was concerned with some of the standards that we moved to statistics that dealt with conditional probability, but we didn't move all of the conditional probability standards to statistics, and we didn't move the addition rule of probability to statistics. And if you want numbers on those are A2S, CP, A3 and 4, and B5 and 6. So they're all the conditional probability standards. And the reason that we left those in Algebra 2 really goes back to that idea of what does every person need to know by the time they get out of Algebra 2. And before a student gets into Algebra 2, they have studied probability, they know the basic probability rules and so on. And conditional probability really asks the question of how does the probability change if I know more information about whatever the event is we're looking at, or how does the probability change if I restrict some of the assumptions that we're making about probability. And especially in if you think about what's going on in the real world with things like COVID testing, for example, where they're talking about, across the country, this is occurring, but in these particular states, the numbers are higher, or for these particular groups of people, the numbers are different, and here's why they're different. But that's really going back to this idea of how do numbers change? How does our probability change if we get more information, or if we're looking at a specific subgroup, or we're restricting the information in some way? And so that's really the reason we left those 4 particular standards in, is because we think it's important for students to understand that probabilities can change based on the amount of information that you have. The other concern was with complex numbers, and why we were taking complex numbers completely out of Algebra 2. And the teacher does make a good point here, that it's important that you make connections between the symbolic and graphical solutions about the type of roots and so on. And in fact, this was a topic of robust discussion in both of the prior groups that looked at this. And we eventually came to the conclusion that you can still teach students about the connections between the symbolic and the graphical solutions, about the types of roots, how many roots you have, and so on, without going into details about what those roots look like. So, for example, if you're looking at a quadratic equation, you're going to have two solutions. They could be two distinct real solutions, and those would show up on a graph. You could have one real root that's repeated, one solution that's repeated, and that will show up on the graph of the quadratic function. Or you can have two non-real roots, and those really can't be seen on the graph. So is it important that they know exactly what those roots are, or is it important that they know that there are two more roots somewhere, but they're not real roots? And so we decided that really in high school, when you're talking about complex numbers, you see them in essentially two places. When you're talking about taking square roots of negative numbers, and when you're talking about complex roots of quadratic equations. And there's not a lot outside of that in the high school realm where you need to know about complex numbers. So our conclusion was this is fairly this is along the lines of when a student's first learning to subtract, and they say, well, why can't you take 2 minus 5 just like you do 5 minus 2? Well, you need to know a little bit more information. You need to learn a little bit more before you can do that. So I think you can do the same thing here. Why can't you find those non-real roots? Well, you can. You need to know a little bit more about that. Take pre-calculus and you'll learn how to do it.
Going back over
If I
the,
may. Yes, am I up? This is Benita Albert. If I may comment, of all the things I worried about that were going to pre-calculus, I guess one of the least was complex numbers. And just for my 2 cents worth, I suppose I got there when I realized so many of my students who transferred from Europe and even other places had no knowledge of complex numbers. And it's not a difficult concept to establish in pre-calculus. So it probably ranked lowest in my concerns about things removed. But I'm sure that the tradition that we've had of having it in Algebra 2 for forever is a difficult one to comprehend.
This is Ken. I really support the comments that have been made. I don't see that the students are losing anything by taking this up in pre-calc. I think that's the appropriate course for this, and I support the current recommendation.
okay. Well, Dr. Kolich, thank you for that explanation. That was very helpful. And I understand the logic that you all had. I was looking back through that feedback. I think that pretty well covered everything. I just wanted to make sure I was doing my due diligence and completely understanding the different facets of some of those changes. So thank you again for that. Any other questions, comments, points that need to be hashed out before any kind of moving forward? All right. Dr. Kolich, again, I will, if the group will allow me the liberty, I will speak for the group and say a very big thank you for your time and your expertise and the very well-researched and thought out explanations and answers. And I don't think we can thank you enough for the many ways that you have responded to our different questions, or all of the rationales provided in those documents that truly made it a seamless process for us to work through understanding these revisions.
Well, thank you for allowing me to participate. This has been a lot of fun, and it's rare that I get to work on a project where I get such good feedback, and it's nice to hear your thoughts on the work that we've done so far, and I appreciate your letting me be part of this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to jump off, and if y'all need anything else, just have Catherine text me, and I can get back on.
We will. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kolich. Appreciate all of your hard work.
All right. With that being said, we if we want to begin taking steps forward, we can open the floor for any types of motions that you all may wish to make this morning.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll try the first one out. How about that?
Sounds great. All
right, everybody can see the Strand Progression screen in front of us. So first of all, look, to the esteemed members of the committee, we've done a lot of great work these last 2 weeks, and we've shown a lot of progress, and I hope that those that have watched us through this process have noticed that we do take this charge seriously, and I think that the benefits will be reaped for anybody that comes through and matriculates through the kindergarten, through the high school. So with that being said, using the Strand Progression graphic that's in front of us, I'd like to make the first motion to accept and approve the strands revisions for the following, the standards revisions for the following strands, including all the suggested changes and rationales, and that includes counting and cardinality for kindergarten, numbers and operations in base 10 for K through 5, numbers and operations, fractions for grades 3 through 5, operations and algebraic thinking for K through 5, and measurement and data K through 5. The only reason why I left geometry out is because I know that we got questions that I think we're going to get some more clarity on, Madam Chair, so that could possibly be a separate motion. But as far as counting and cardinality, number and operations in base 10, number and operations fractions, operation and algebraic thinking, and measurement and data, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revisions for those strands, including all suggestions and rationales. I'd like to move that on the floor.
Second that, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And that opens the motion up for discussion. So I just, point of clarification, it's basically all of the K5 strands except geometry.
Correct.
Okay. Just making notes. And I do want to ask Catherine one quick question. Last week we discussed getting all these revisions cleaned up and in a Word document, and I just wanted to even though I'm sure you've done that and that exists. I just want to verify that any motion that's made is referencing to those final cleaned up. There's not anything we need to do edit wise before we vote on anything.
They are not fully complete. It is a very time-consuming process in that I have to copy and paste every single standard and format them into the Word document. But I will reassure you guys that we will have multiple levels of people double checking and comparing my work against the Excel documents that you create to the Word documents. We will have TDOE individuals checking that work who are have expertise in math, as well as internally at the state board. So there will be multiple levels of checking.
The work will be, I'm not questioning that at all. It was for a technicality on what we're voting.
Yeah, you technically are voting on the proposed standards in the Excel document as they stand.
Okay.
In addition to that, the Word documents that have the introductory text that are also in your Microsoft Teams folder.
Correct.
And so do we need to specifically include those documents in a motion, or are they by default tied up in the standards?
Just to be sure we cover our bases, you could do a motion to approve like all introductory documents at the same time.
Madam Chair, would you like me to amend my motion to include that?
No, Mr. Ford, I think it may just be simpler to take their recommendation of just having a motion to include all those introductory documents in one lump vote.
Okay.
Or one lump motion.
Okay.
Because some of the grades include all the strands, and if we omit geometry or any other strands along the way, then that's tied in those documents.
I understand. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Any other discussion on this motion? All right. Hearing none, we need to do a vote through roll call, correct?
That is correct, and I am prepared to do that.
All right. I think we can move forward with that.
Great. So I have Edmund Ford with the motion, Ken Berger with the second, Benita Albert,
Yes, favor.
Teresa Boston,
Yes.
Ken Berger,
Yes.
Leslie Clifton, she's not here. Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Yes.
Aaron Vogelson,
Yes.
Joseph Wingfield, Shannon Duncan,
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes and the motion carries.
Great. Thank you. All right. So that covers all strands in K5 except geometry. So the floor is open for any further motions.
Madam Chair, I have a question before the next motion.
Yes.
Last week, I know that we did a lot of robust work making sure that the 5-6 and the 8-9 connection with geometry was modified. You know, we had a few of those substrands that were blank, and we had to put those items in. Remember last week we had A's and C's, but then we didn't have B, and we had to go find it, and then we had to go fix a few things. So as far as making another motion, and this may have to go to Catherine as well, would it be more appropriate, since we had to fix some 5-6 language which was within the Excel spreadsheet, as well as some of the 8-9 that was missing and had to be modified, would it be appropriate in a future motion, for example, hypothetically, to say that we accept the geometry strand as amended from last week, since we had to do a lot of modifications since some items were missing from the original Excel spreadsheet.
I think you can, this is Amy jumping in if that's okay.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, we have posted on our website for this meeting the version of standards that were complete as of your work last Friday, September 18th, as the jumping off point for you to vote on at this meeting. So unless you make a further amendment at this meeting, I think you're safe to vote on the standards that you all have worked on to date.
Okay, very good.
Great.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Madam Chair, I know that we went through entire geometry, so what I'll do is I'll make the formal motion for us to accept and approve the standard revisions for geometry K through 5 as amended from September 18th, 2020, as posted on the website.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Catherine, I think we're good to move forward with a vote.
Great. Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell, Aaron Vogelstein,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield, Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes and the motion carries.
Great, thank you. All right. Continuing to move forward. Other questions?
Madam Chair, I got another one.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'd like to move that we accept and approve the K through 5 math course introduction. This should take care of the entire K through 5 as far as the state standards, strands, and introductory documents that we referenced. So I'd like to make that a formal motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Is there any discussion on that?
This can,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would encourage Edmund to expand on that just a little bit so that any attendees or anybody that reviews the video would understand why you're doing that. So if you would expand on that just a little bit, I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. So thank you for bringing that up. So upon the guidance of Catherine and Amy and our Madam Chair, it was believed appropriate to have what's in front of us as a separate motion and not commingle it with the aforementioned strands. So this motion is to not just honor those requests, but it also gives an opportunity for anybody who might want to modify what's in front of us accordingly. After this vote, assuming that it passes, we will be done with all the K through 5 components, including the standards revisions, the strands, as well as the introductory documents. So this motion that's on the floor is just to honor the recommendations by Catherine, Amy, and our Madam Chair. I hope that answers your question, Ken.
Yes, thank you. I just thought it would be appropriate for anyone who actually use this to help them understand why we're doing this. That's great. Thank you.
Yes, and I will try to do a better job of making sure the coordinating documents for which we are voting are shared on the screen as we are looking at them and making motions and voting. All right, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we can take a vote.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield, Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you.
And as a point of reference, I do believe that Joseph Wingfield did have to go to a prior commitment for his job that he had. So in the interest of the vote, I will forgo his name moving forward, if that is okay with you, Madam Chair.
Yes, I saw his email, so I knew he had to leave for a meeting.
Great. Thank you.
All right. The floor is back open for motions.
Madam Chair, can you bring the Strand Progression back up again, please?
I can.
And to my colleagues, I don't have to be the only one that makes the motion. If anybody else wants to jump in like Double Dutch, go right ahead.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standards revisions for the following strands in front of us: ratios and proportional relationships, 6th through 7th grade; the number system, 6 through 8; expressions and equations, 6 through 8; and well, I tell you what, since the other ones commingle, I'll stop there and with that motion. So I'll repeat: ratios and proportional relationships for 6, 7, the number system, 6 through 8, and expressions and equations, 6 through 8. I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revisions for those following strands. I'd like to move that on the floor.
Second.
All right, a second from Mr. Berger. So to recap, it is these 3 sets of standards in these strands right here at the top. And is there any discussion? Hearing none, we can move to a vote.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes and the motion carries.
All right, floor is back open for the motions.
Madam Chair, got a quick question before we go to functions. Were there any substantial changes that we brought forward in our last meeting concerning functions? I know in geometry we definitely made some changes, but were there any substantial modifications from last week regarding functions 8, 9?
Not that I had made note of. Some of the areas that we had made significant, I made some written notes to self. But I will be happy to quickly scroll the right direction and double check this section.
Yeah, I thought a lot of it said keep as well, but I didn't want to make a motion until I put eyes on it. I appreciate it, Madam Chair.
Yes, no, we did not have any notes in that section.
Okay. With that being said, Madam Chair, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revisions for the following strand functions for 8th grade, including all suggested changes and rationales. I'd like to move that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second that.
I think that was Miss Albert that I heard first. Is that correct, Miss Albert?
No. I don't know if I dropped the wording or not. Did he say for 8th grade? Yes. Is that what he said?
Yes, the motion is specifically for the functions strand in the 8th grade.
Okay, thank you.
Small chunk right here. And so just for Catherine's. Oh, okay, Rita, thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will vote.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes and the motion carries.
Great, thank you. All right, we will continue with the floor open for motions.
Madam Chair, can you bring the geometry back up from the Excel spreadsheet?
I certainly can. Is there any particular grade level that you would like me to focus on?
Well, my primary question deals with, it goes back to Catherine and Amy. We spent a lot of time on the geometry and we made some modifications just for the record, since we have this as a public record. Were those modifications made in the spreadsheet that's in front of us as of the 18th? I know we made some changes.
Any changes that Ms. Duncan reported in the Excel spreadsheet should still stand as changed, as well as Miss Amy Owen went through and also made any concurrent changes in the recycling standards in the, or I guess
Okay.
the where it's still in 6.8. So yes, any changes that that Madam Chair made in the Excel document still stands. We have not gone in and made any additional changes, if that answers your question.
It does answer most of it. The other part, as far as the codes that needed to be changed, I remember this is the part where we had codes needed to be updated, I believe. I think it was in the rationale section. Will we need to do that, or is that outside of this committee to where all we have to do is just make the motion and then the codes will be updated by somebody else?
As long as it is indicated in the suggested change column in the Excel document, when I transfer them to the Word documents, all codes will be changed to match your recommendations.
That's correct.
All right.
Mr. Ford, that would just be considered a technical change that based on your recommendations, we would be making as we move these into the Word documents. And just because this may help answer a question as you move to high school, Catherine is correct. I spent time earlier this week going standard by standard through Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, and comparing changes you made there to the integrated math pathway and making sure that the same change occurred in integrated math. And both Dr. Kolich and also the math content team at the Department of Education double-checked that work and verified that everything went in the correct place in terms of mathematical progression. So that might help when you get to high school.
Amy, you're awesome.
Yes, thank you for that.
Madam Chair, I think I can make a motion now.
All right, go ahead.
All right. If we go back to the Strand, the colorful graphic, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revisions for geometry 6 through 8 as amended from September 18th, 2020, including the technical changes and rationale that are included in the Excel spreadsheet as referenced. I so move.
Second.
Mr. Berger, did you second?
Yes, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
right, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the roll call.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 7 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. Floor is back open for motions.
Madam Chair, did we have any significant changes on the statistics and probability K through 8? If not, I'll be prepared to make another motion.
Notes, we did have some significant discussion, but I did not make notes. It wasn't something that made my list of changes to watch for.
All right. Well, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revisions for statistics and probability 6 through 8 on the floor, including all suggested changes and rationales.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion?
Was that Ms. Albert on the second?
I believe so. Ms. Albert, can you confirm?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to note that I believe Mr. Wingfield is back with us.
He's back with us.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I am. Thank you.
Well, welcome back. Thank you.
I will add him back into the roll call.
Great. And Mr. Wingfield, I'm not sure when you joined, so I will let you know what we are in the middle of right now. There has been a motion and a second on.
I've been following the last several votes.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon.
All right. Well, if there's no discussion on this, then we will move forward with the vote.
Great. Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. Floor is back open for any further motions.
All right. Madam Chair, I have a few more. I'd like to make the motion to accept the introductory documents for mathematics grade 6. I would do 6 through 8, but 6 through 8 are all separate introductory documents. And if anybody on the committee wanted to make some modifications, I think it'd be best to bifurcate these. So I like to move that the revised 6th grade introduction to mathematics be accepted and approved.
And I'm trying to pull that document up for everyone real quick.
As amended.
Okay, here it is. All right, we have a motion to accept the 6th grade introductory document.
A second from Wingfield.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take the roll call.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
sorry, I'm trying to click and talk at the same time. Further motions. I'm going to assume this is the next document.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I'd like to make the formal motion to accept and approve the introductory documents for mathematics grade 7 as revised and amended. I'd like to make that as a formal motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second. Boston.
Thank you. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Anita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Aaron Vogelsang,
Aye.
Wingfield,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes, and the motion carries.
Thank you. Floor is back open for motions.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to accept and approve the introductory documents for mathematics grade 8 as revised.
We have a
Second.
motion. Mr. Berger, was that you? I'm sorry.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Second by Mr. Berger. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none again, we'll move forward with the vote.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Aaron Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes, and the motion carries.
All right, for future reference, it does appear that all of the high school math courses are introductions are in one document. So I will go back to Strand Progression graphic. And the floor is
All
back
right.
for informations.
Madam Chair, since I know that algebra, we got 1 and 2 that might need some more discussion, and since functions and geometry and stat and probability are somewhat commingled with 8th grade, I'll just make a singular motion on the floor to accept and approve the standard revision for the following strand of number and quantity for high school. I'd like to make that a formal motion.
Second.
Second.
Boston.
Boston, thank you. Second, any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward with the roll call.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell, Aaron Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes, and the motion carries.
Thank you. Floor is back open.
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and put this on the floor, but I know I think we did have a lot of changes for algebra, just to get this on the floor, and then we can go to the spreadsheet that has Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. For the purposes of getting this item on the floor, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revision for the strand of Algebra High School, including suggested changes and rationale. We might have some amendments possibly because I know we did some work on it, but for the purposes of proceeding, I'd like to move that motion on the floor.
So just to clarify, is it just this strand right
Just
here?
algebra. Yes. Yes. Yes, Madam Chair.
Second. Boston.
A point of maybe question, discussion. I believe in the grouping of the Algebra 1 and 2 standards with the way they are grouped in the course, that may incorporate the functions standards also. We can go into the edits and look through those. It may be to differentiate which ones are solely linked to algebra and which ones might solely be linked to functions.
I'd also just like to let you know that there are, as you know, algebra and function standards in the integrated math courses as well. So just be thinking about if you want to be approving all algebra standards across all the courses, or if you prefer to take a course by course approach, but whatever this committee prefers is fine.
So Amy, if we were to approve, if as the motion is currently stated with this strand, that would by default incorporate any standards, whether it's in the traditional or the integrated.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And I will also, to that point, if you do make any further changes in the Algebra 1 geometry, Algebra 2 progressions, at this point, the committee will need to go into the integrated and make the respective changes as well before you vote on it.
I did not interpret Mr. Ford's caution to be about making further changes, just verifying that we had caught and were incorporating the previous discussion and changes.
Perfect.
Is that accurate, Mr. Ford?
I had to unmute myself because I know there's a little bit of feedback in the background. Can we go to the Algebra 1 real quick? Because I was going to my 9 through 12 standard revisions, and I know that in cells C24, 25, and 26, we had to go back and modify those accordingly. So I just wanted to make sure that B was in there, and I see that it is. Madam Chair, were there any other notes in the Algebra 1? And the reason why I'm asking that is because going back to what Amy stated, and I don't know if this is where she's going with this, do you think that we would probably need to, and I'd like to hear from the committee, whatever they think is best, do you think that we would have to do the integrated 1 separately from the integrated 2, the integrated 3 algebra? I'm seeing Amy nod her head no, so never mind, disregard what I just said. But what I'd like to do is, Madam Chair, if we could amend my motion to where we approve the standard revisions for algebra as amended from 918. I forgot to mention that part. So if we could amend my motion to approve the corrections from 918 to be incorporated into the motion.
Yes, and Mr. Ford and Catherine and Amy, I do see one edit, and it's really it's another technical, but was the cluster heading was updated to use units to understand problems, and this actually needs to be copied and pasted to these. Okay, correct?
Correct. When I go through, I will do that in the Word documents as it is noted in the Excel document.
We just didn't do it all the way down because you had noted it in the one column that it was a cluster heading change, that it would apply across the board.
Okay.
And it would translate to the integrated sequence as well that had the same cluster heading.
Madam Chair, so we won't get in trouble with Catherine later. I know we can't do the amendment without objection, so let me do this. Permission to withdraw my motion and then bring back the motion as amended so we won't have to do 2 votes.
Well, if you make an amendment, then as long as the person who seconded it is in agreement, we can move forward with amending that motion.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to vote on the amendment and then we had to vote on the whole item as amended. I was just trying to keep us from having to do 2 votes.
As long as Teresa Boston.
Yes, I will amend my second.
We're
Okay.
all set.
I didn't want to get in trouble with Catherine again, so yeah.
Can I jump in?
Thank you.
By what the amendment to the motion is now.
The amendment on the motion is as amended from September 18th, 2020. That's all it is.
And that just helps ensure that all changes made to the integrated documents and everything are included as well. So y'all are
Absolutely.
covering all of your bases, and we are in good shape.
Okay. I'm going to go back to our graphic.
Could I ask? I made a minor editorial change with Stephanie this morning in the integrated math series. That's not September 18th, but can it be duly noted?
Yes, is it in the document?
Right, I'd have to look again. And she did agree to it. Sorry, give me a minute to find it. It was M3FLEA2.
Is it which integrated? Is it 1, 2, or 3?
And I'm sorry, three.
And repeat that standard again, please.
M3FLEA2.
Oh, F L E A. All right.
Right. In the part B, it should be AB quantity to the CT power, right? It's actually typed correctly previously, but.
All right. This needs a little
kicked. Yeah. AB to the quantity CT, right?
Oh,
yeah.
CT.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
No, you don't. I'm sorry. No, it's CT. AB
Right.
to CT. Yeah.
Have my cursor in the correct spot. All right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Ford, you could potentially for today to state today's date.
All right. Well, Catherine, is that appropriate?
That is fine.
Okay. All right. I'd like to amend the amendment to modify the revision date of 9/18 to 9/25/2020.
I'll amend my second.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Albert, for pointing that out. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we will move forward with voting on the algebra strand for 912 standards.
Benita Albert.
Aye.
Teresa Boston.
Aye.
Berger.
Aye.
Edmund Ford.
Aye.
Rita Sowell.
Aye.
Vogelsang.
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield.
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. All right, floor is back open.
All right, Madam Chair, in order to get this on the floor, we can talk about modifications. When it gets on the floor, I'd like to just accept and approve the standard revision for the following strand, Geometry High School, including all suggested changes and rationales. I'd like to move that on the floor. I think we might have a couple of modifications. So what I'll say is as amended from the 18th of September.
Just to clarify, the last motion that you guys voted on that was just for algebra. So are we skipping over functions for now?
I'm sorry. No. I was jumping the gun. So
Okay.
I tell you what, Madam Chair, since I already put that on the floor, we can come back to functions after that.
That is fine.
Okay.
I just wanted
All right.
to check.
I was going too fast. My apologies. See, I got in trouble with Catherine anyway.
You're in trouble. Not in trouble.
Tree strand. Is there a second?
I say,
Austin.
And Madam Chair, do we have any significant changes in the geometry? Well, you already hit us.
We did have mostly just some additional technical changes. I think there, for example, this one notates needing some recoding work. I think we did have to make some updates to some cluster headings. Yes, for example, here, and those have been highlighted in yellow to note or to point those out.
Okay.
I will be happy to make sure we have caught all of those. But again, if they're notated, and Catherine and Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on what you said earlier, if they are included in rationales or any notation in this current Excel document, those will be accounted for as a technical change.
That is correct.
That is correct. And what we could also do, if the committee is desirous of this, I don't want to put extra work on you. When we do have the Word documents available, we are happy to share them with you. And then if you notice that there are technical edits, by which I mean commas, a sentence that got cut off, something like that, not a substantive change, but a technical change, we would be able to make those if you catch them for us before the first reading at the state board meeting. And of course, between first reading and final reading with the state board, we may hear from board members about any changes they would like to recommend. But is that something the committee would be interested in? We're happy to send it out. You don't have to respond if it's not a convenient time for you, but that might be a way to make sure that all of these changes are 100% sure that they're caught.
That's fine with me. I don't want to put any additional work on you all.
That's totally fine.
I feel like in some form or fashion on this document, any appropriate edits or updates or notes have been accounted for and will be appropriately taken care of through the future work. All right, any further discussion? We did have a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, since I did say as amended, it's going to incorporate all of this, so I think we can proceed.
Okay.
All right.
Hearing none, we'll go forward with the roll call.
Great. Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell, Aaron Vogelstein,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
and Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
All right. Floor is back open.
All right, Madam Chair, since I skipped one, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revisions for the following Strand functions for high school, including all suggested changes and rationales. And I'd like to move that on the floor.
Second,
The motion is for the function stream in high school. Is there a second?
yes.
Mr. Berger with a second. There any discussion?
Did we make any changes, Madam Chair, since 8th and 9th grade are commingled?
Those changes were in the Algebra 1 document that we pulled up. I'm happy to pull up that we had a moment ago. Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 documents. It kind of falls under that same umbrella of any of those edits, notes, asterisks, Our official document will be accounted for. But we can certainly double check that. We've already viewed Algebra 1, so I'm just going back into the Algebra 2. So here's an example of where we've updated the cluster head. If we had overlooked that, there is this note.
And Madam Chair, I don't have any changes. I just didn't know if anybody on the committee needed to get a quick refresher on what was discussed last week.
Questions or discussion around these standards or modifications? All right.
I'm sorry. I'm having some difficulty hearing things. Did I hear that you did add the cluster headings for, let's see, A1F?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. What I had said was if we had incidentally overlooked it, it is accounted for in this notation.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Are we good to move forward then with the roll call? Okay.
Benita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Karen Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. And I'll mark that one. Further motions.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to accept and approve the standard revision for the following strand: statistics and probability for high school, which will include all suggested changes and rationales from September 18th, 2020. I'd like to make that a formal motion.
Second. Albert.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, do we have any significant changes from stat and probability? I don't remember, I don't recall, but that doesn't mean that we didn't have any from last week.
I do not believe, I think there were, as we've discussed, there were some updates made to the course prior to our discussion. And we did have some good discussion about that. I don't believe that we made significant changes from that point.
Okay.
And I don't. So I guess those are what's integrated in the, I was looking for a standalone course and I don't think it's there.
And I didn't know if anything from the 8th grade and the 9th grade had modifications. That's the primary reason why I'm asking, Madam Chair.
I remember some significant discussion around the 4th and 5th, but we had made those updates and we had ironed that out in the document. I know, for example, one of the questions I had this morning that Dr. Kolich answered was around statistics and probability standards, but we made no update. We made no changes. So this friend.
Okay.
So there is a note that that this is a new standard and it does coding. So that will be accommodated in the final editorial work.
Sorry, could you say that one more time?
No, I was just pointing out that there was already a note that these standards need to be renumbered because this is a new standard, and that will be covered in that final draft, the technical work that we've talked about.
Yep.
I did highlight this just to bring attention to make sure the notation is already in place, but that it's splitting into two standards, and that will additionally affect the numbering and the coding of the standard. We have a new cluster heading, which is accounted for. So really, these are just technical updates. I don't believe we made any significant content commitments.
Madam Chair, just so that we can, on that note, I'd like to amend my motion to include technical changes in the rationale. And if I get a second.
Second.
Okay. Albert. Yes. There's a second, and that the amendment has been seconded or approved by the second. Is there any other discussion? Just as another example, here's another note about standards needing to be renumbered and accommodated for under cluster C. So that will be ironed out in the final draft. And that's the last of. All right, so if there's no further questions, discussion, clarification, which I'll be happy to scroll back through anything. And we'll move forward with the roll call.
Anita Albert,
Aye.
Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell,
Aye.
Aaron Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
Shannon Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
All right, thank you. Let me go back to our. So just to clarify, that wraps up the actual strands. What we still lack is the high school course introductory document, which I will pull up.
All right, so Madam Chair, I'd like to make that motion to accept and approve the high school math course introductory documents. This encompasses the algebra, the geometry, the integrated math, and all those other high school strands that we have voted on. So I'd like to make that a formal motion to accept and approve the high school math course introductory document.
Second, Wingfield.
Thank you. So now it's open to discussion, which I have a question just to clarify. These citations that are referenced in this document, those fall under a technical edit, or do we need to correct that before a final vote?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
I can jump in, Catherine.
Okay, thank you.
We will finalize the works cited page prior to presenting this to the state board.
Yes.
So it's under that technical umbrella.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I assumed, I just wanted to be extra sure.
No, I appreciate that.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, we will vote.
Great. Benita Albert, Benita Albert. You are unmuted, Benita.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have lost the screen. I did have a question. I am so sorry to do this. That was discussed with Stephanie this morning, and I was watching the screen to see if you were going to scroll to integrated math 2. Word transformations, is it gone at the end of integrated math 2? She agreed it should be.
That can be a technical change, and I will make sure that it is omitted in the final version.
Okay, so I vote aye. I'm sorry. For some reason, I am out here in Netherlands.
That is okay. Okay, so Benita, aye. Great. Teresa Boston,
Aye.
Ken Berger,
Aye.
Edmund Ford,
Aye.
Rita Sowell, Vogelsang,
Aye.
Joseph Wingfield,
Aye.
and Duncan.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have 8 ayes and the motion carries.
Great, thank you. All right, Catherine and Amy, that covers each of the strands in the K-12 progression.
Correct.
Covers our K-5 introductory document, our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade introductory documents, and our high school course document. Are there any other items which require or approval?
Madam Chair, a quick note, Joseph Wingfield here. Thanks for your leadership. It was an awesome experience to work with all y'all. I've got a meeting I got to step out to, and I'm leaving it in good hands. Thank you very much. Pleasure serving with you.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsfield.
Very nice to work with you.
As far as items to vote on, I have the written record of all of those votes, and that does cover everything that requires a vote from this committee.
Shannon, I believe Dr. Morris would like a chance whenever you're ready to just say a few more words.
Absolutely. I will turn that over to her. Are there any committee members that would like to say any closing words or comments?
I yield to the executive director first before I say anything.
Okay, certainly. All right,
I will be very brief. I've been listening to your all's discussion today. I've been working on some other things, and it's been so impressive. I think, Shannon, you said it best. There's just been so much work along the way that have, I think, set you all up for a really effective and smooth final stage of review. But every stage is so critical to getting these standards right. And I can't thank you enough for your real deep engagement and work over the last number of weeks to make sure that we're ready to bring these to our board with every confidence that they're going to serve our students well. I know Stephanie is going to be planning to join us for that first reading in November. And Shannon, if you're available, we certainly would love to have you join us too, to make sure our board can hear from you directly and reflect the great work of this committee. But it's been a pleasure to watch and listen and be part of this work alongside you. And I thank you again to all of you for your service. We'll certainly be passing that along to our board members. And if it works for Shannon to join us on your behalf, we would love that at our meeting here in, another month and a half. So thanks to all of you again. Turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. It has truly been a privilege over the last several years to get to know you and work with you. And if other committee members, if you have not had that opportunity, I suggest getting to know your state board members further, as well as the executive director. It's a truly impressive organization. And I thank you for this opportunity. I will turn it over if any committee members that would like to make any closing comments.
Madam Chair, this is Ken Berger. This is my first time being affiliated with the Standards Board, and I must say the one concern that I had was I wondered how this would work as opposed to the normal situation where we're sitting in a room looking at each other, you know, passing information back and forth. But I really commend everyone who worked on this. It exceeded my expectations. I did have some concerns, and I think that the committee as a whole did an excellent job. And I just really want to thank Catherine and Amy and Dr. Kolich and all of the people who worked so hard to make this job relatively easy for us. I know that we had significant input, but the product we started with was excellent. And I do want to thank everyone involved. It was a great experience.
I would like to say thank you, Mr. Berger. This is my first time as well, and I am just in awe at the talent and the knowledge and the commitment that this committee has put forth. Thank you so much for a very positive experience, and thank you, all of you, for your hard work.
Madam Chair, I would just like to say, look, it's been a privilege and a pleasure working with everyone. Too bad we couldn't see each other in a personal/professional level at the same time, but hey, you never know down the road, and I know the work that we have done these last 3 weeks is not in vain. I know that at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that our future doctors, lawyers, teachers, entrepreneurs, and others have the standards necessary so that they can be very productive individuals in society. To the executive director, it's good to see you on. The last time I saw you in Tennessee, we were working on some items. So Dr. Morrison, it's good to see you. And hopefully after this pandemic dissipates, we can all see each other in a setting that doesn't require us to have to put a headset on or anything. But notwithstanding, I think, Madam Chair, in spite of these conditions, I think we've done one great job. So thank you, great job to all the committee members. And for those 2 individuals that decided to log in and watch us, thank you for being participants as well. I won't mention their name, but we got 2 people that are actually watching us work. So thank you for also logging in and seeing that, hey, we care about our youth. We care about making sure that these standards are of not just a proficient capacity, but an advanced capacity so that our youth and others and future generations can progress. And that's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, everyone, for your knowledge. I've learned so much. It is the first time that I've ever served on a committee of this nature. I appreciate all the details that you expanded on. It's been a great committee, and I will piggyback on, I guess, maybe Edmund. You know, we weren't live in a room, but I think Zoom has worked very well. Thank you, and I appreciate all the hard work.
I'll just chime in and express my thanks and really echo what everybody else has said. The 2 prior committees that have worked on this did just such an outstanding job. It made it so easy for us. And thank you to the other committee members. I learned quite a lot listening about algebra in high school, having been an elementary teacher for 15 years. So it's been just a real honor to serve on this committee. So many thanks to all of you. And I'm going to echo Mr. Ford's sentiment. Hopefully one day we'll be able to be back face to face, because this time in a week, it's been how many years? 6 years since I saw Dr. Morrison?
Has it been that long? Oh my goodness.
Well, you were the one that actually announced my name as Teacher of the Year.
I remember now.
On October the 2nd,
like yesterday.
2014, but then I had the privilege of seeing you again during my day Hope Street group, and then with Governor Haslam's teacher cabinet. So when I found out I was nominated to serve on this committee for the state board, I was really excited about that. So many thanks to all of you, and have a wonderful rest of the year, and hopefully we can get back face to face really soon.
Madam Chair, if I may piggyback on Karen, we really do encourage and hope that you stay in touch with us at the state board. If it's acceptable to you all, we'll sign you up for our monthly newsletter. That's available on our website, but we'll get you beamed up on our own there so that you know exactly when these standards are going to the board and what the progression is as they move forward. This has been a wonderful group. We appreciate each of you and your insights. Obviously, we also, I'd like to share a little bit of thanks with Elizabeth, who's our communications consultant, and making sure you had the WebEx ready to go. And also one of our attendees, I will call her out, is our Executive Administrative Assistant, Vicki Daney, who, if you were meeting in person, would have been doing all of your travel and logistics for you, but she keeps our meetings straight and wanted to make sure everything was progressing as smoothly as possible. So she's joined us as well. So we've got a great team, and we were thrilled to be able to support your work.
I would just like to echo Amy's thanks as well. As we've said before, this work cannot be done without all of you. I do want to say it just so that it's on the public record that the next step is for these to go to the state board for a vote on first reading in November and final reading in February. And just to make note that it is the prerogative of the state board to make additional changes, although we do not anticipate anything major happening. And then these standards will go into effect, I hope I'm not misstating this, in the 2023 school year. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the public record as we move forward.
Thank you.
I would like to speak. I'm back. Technology has been challenging. I think it was something here in the house, but it has been a real pleasure as a former math teacher who loved her job, taught in Tennessee for 44 years. It's just good to be back in the game and hearing changes and thinking them through, and now cheering for the teachers, God bless them, who are out there and who will be poring over these and are doing their very, very best. My heart's just been with teachers within the last 6 months. It's going to stay there. I will be very interested in how these new standards play out within. And I do appreciate all of the effort they have given to us to approve and amend very, very slightly. Ditto all the comments made to fellow committee members. And thank you very, very much, Shannon, for your leadership, and Catherine for your quick replies to many, many emails. Thank you.
All right, Catherine, do you have any closing instructions, closing statements?
Just that we will be sure to share the documents with all of you so that you can take a look and ensure that all of your intended changes have been included in those. You can anticipate them sometime in early October. And just one last thanks. And then I will leave it to you, Madam Chair, to close us out.
All right. Do we need a formal motion to adjourn the meeting, or are we?
May do so without objection.
Okay. All right. So without any further objection, I will say a final goodbye and a nice to meet you all. And we will adjourn our meeting for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great weekend.